No.
No,
It,
I
it,
remember the story you told us during the class with that sheriff, and I think it was a sheriff.
yes, was a sheriff.
Oh my God, it broke my heart
Yeah,
because I have kids and I have young kids,
yeah.
and when you
He
told us all
arrested
your
me.
reaction, I was feeling it because I
Yeah.
would have
I,
reacted the same way.
I went right there. In fact, I was talking to a class, and 10 o'clock at night, I came out and was a note under my windshield wiper. It said missing little kid. And I went there, and it was a 8-year-old little girl. And she went out. It was a beautiful day. It was December the 20th. And she went out on this gorgeous day where the temperature was warm. And she went out in shorts and a t-shirt and sneakers with her two dogs. And the dogs came home right after dark because the temperature started dropping. She did not. And if she was out there too long, she'd die of hypothermia. So I got this call, or they sort of called me. They put that note under my windshield wiper. So I went over there and I tried to I get put an X on the map where she was located, and I gave it to the tried to give it to the sheriff, and he wouldn't take it. I don't deal with psychics. That was his response.
Mm.
So I bumped into the the, the guy who controls hunting and everything in the area, and he said, "What? Well, why aren't you talking to the sheriff?" And I told him he didn't want to talk to me. So he says, "Give me your note." And I gave him the map, and he says, "I'll talk to him. I'll pretend that I got it somewhere else." I said, "Great." So I gave it to the sheriff, and by then it was 2 in the morning. And I said, "Look, I got to go home and get some sleep. So if you need me, I'm at home." And I went home. I was really frustrated. And 7 a.m. the next morning, I got awakened. The sheriff wants to see you right away. And I thought, finally. So I drove in, and as I was getting out of my truck, the deputy came over and he said, "I'm really sorry about this, but you got to put your hands on the hood."
Mm.
I went, "What?" He started going through my pockets. He said, "You're under arrest." He took me in handcuffed to the sheriff. And the sheriff says, "Okay, what did you do with this little girl?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, we found her sneakers and her t-shirt where you put the X on the map. And the only way they could have gotten there is if you put them there." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, back up." And he said, "No." He said, "You're going to tell us where she is now, or whatever." I can't remember the exact statement, but he kept me handcuffed. And every time he asked me where she was, I said, "I want a lawyer." All I could respond with was, "I want a lawyer." And finally, his game warden is what he was, a guy named Mike Hall. I knew him really well. Mike Hall comes in and he says, um, probably shouldn't use the name. Anyway, sounded like that. He came in and he said, "What's going on?" And the sheriff says, "Well, we found her t-shirt and sneakers." And he said, "Oh, look, uh, Joe was talking to like 30 people and this happened." And "Oh, well, he didn't say that." And he says, "Of course not. He's handcuffed. Uh,
Right,
you don't say anything. You ask for a lawyer, and
right.
you didn't get him one."
Mm.
So he took the handcuffs off, and he said, "Okay, where would you put her if you said she was somewhere right now?" And so I made an X on another map, and I think I walked over. They had a grid thing on the wall, and I marked it just off the grid. So the sheriff says, "Oh, now we got to change the grid. And then we got to send in dog teams. And then we got to do this. And then we got to do that." I said, "Wait a minute. Just let us go in and get her." No, it's got to be done according to the rules. So we sat around while the dogs went in, and then this and that, whatever. And I think it was like 4 hours later. And he says, "Okay, now I'm going to send in two teams." So I made sure uh, I and the game warden uh, decided to work on it together. Anyway, we put the X on the same maps of the searching team. Said, come together at the X, go as fast as you can. It was a canyon, which they did. And they finally got to this canyon, and it was not at the X. They had to look around, and up this little alcove about 75 feet away, they found her body laying face down. And when they rolled her over, she was, of course, dead, but there was no lividity, which meant that she had been dead less than an hour.
Right.
And had we been allowed to just go get her, she would be alive.
Right.
And all I wanted to do then is put a hurt on the
Yeah,
sheriff.
same thing I would have done.
Yeah, but what I did instead is I went and talked to her parents,
Hmm.
and he was looking for a job. I, I I think that's what happened. I'm not sure now, but it it it's a terrible feeling when you know something and nobody believes
Right. Right.
you. And I have to say that happens more than once, which is why I decided to do the missing people in Japan.
Mm.
Uh, I looked for 24 missing people in Japan that were missing somewhere between 5 and 38 years, and
Hmm.
I found 12 of them, exactly half.
Wow.
At the same time, I saw four murders, which will never be shown on television because it's against the law in Japan. And
Hmm.
I failed one really terrible guy. Uh, but I did get to meet the police commissioner. He was in the hospital for 8 months because somebody tried to shoot him. It was an assassination attempt,
Hmm.
and they caught the guy, but they couldn't bring him to trial because they had no weapon. And
Hmm.
so I spent 4 days looking for and finding the weapon for them. That'll never be shown on television. Uh, there's just so many things out there you can use remote viewing for,
Right.
or not. You got to ask that question: should I or should I not be doing this?
Hmm.
And sometimes, no, you shouldn't be.